welcome you back to Aimless TV. I'm here again today with Jenny and Angela from Twin Cities Paranormal Society, and we're going to talk a little bit today about some of the experiences you've had, and also what it is to work as a spiritual person and not necessarily have the agreement of the church. Let's start with that, Angela. Explain. You and Jenny are both spiritual people, and you approach this when you go in with a spiritual bent. But there's some people in the church that don't necessarily agree. No. How do you deal with that?
It's hard because you would think that since we're dealing with hauntings, which means you're dealing with the afterlife, that the church would actually maybe not support it, but just be okay with it, that, you know, yeah, it's a valid thing. You're investigating what happens after you died, but I think that there's a taboo on that subject sometimes, that whatever has been taught to us cannot, you know, veer from anything that we've been taught. Is
it because of their indoctrination that maybe that there's a denial of the spirit activity?
I think, you know, and Catholics are a prime example because Catholics mostly, I think, believe in purgatory.
Okay.
Now, that would come into a haunting. If someone's just kind of waiting to go, you know, either way, what are they doing? What are they doing in this time that they're waiting to go to either place? So, but not every religion believes in the Christian religion that there is a purgatory, that there's a waiting period, that you just either go up or down and that's it.
Okay.
So it's controversial, and I just lean on what I've been taught about the Bible. Okay. I grew up Catholic. I became a Lutheran in my teens, and just kind of on my own accord, actually.
All right.
Just kind of always followed my own path, and so I think it's important to bring that into what you're doing, but not let it overrule what you're doing.
Okay. Is there more skepticism in the church that there is such spirits still walking the earth, or is there acceptance that there can be spirits on the earth?
I think there's acceptance, but I think that a lot of the Christian Catholic churches are just afraid that we're dealing with demonic. Yeah. I think that's the number one.
So they're more concerned that you're dealing with entities that are harmful.
Right.
Okay.
Right, and like I've mentioned before, if we ever get wind of that's what we're supposedly dealing with, I say no. Because we're not equipped to deal with that. We're not priests, we're not spiritual.
So your first step is then to bring the church and get them involved.
Right, and we want the church to handle it then.
Right. So. Okay, and at that point they are willing to say, okay, let's see what we're dealing with here.
Right.
Okay. That's very helpful for people, I guess, who are wondering, you know, what do I do with this? If I'm a Catholic person and my house has, you know, cabinets opening during the night, and, you know, do I just accept that, or do I say, hi, you guys want to come help us out here and figure this out?
Right, and it's just the unknown that's so scary.
And so the clients you get, are they multi-denominational? Are they, I mean, do you have like Jewish clients that say, you know, what's going on here? Or are they mostly Christian people that go, you know, I don't like what's going on in my house?
I'd say more agnostic.
Yeah.
For some reason, yes. I think that, and unfortunately that's just kind of the culture that we are now, a lot of people around our age just, they're not as spiritual as they used to be. They're not as religious as they used to be. So it's just a lot of people that kind of, well, I grew up Catholic, but, you know, I don't know what's going on, and I think it might be something paranormal, and so can you guys investigate it?
Is some of that guided by what maybe they've seen in pop culture and television? You know, if they're hearing, you know, odd knocks during the night, you know, is it because they watched Ghost Hunters a month ago and go, geez, you know, I better get that checked out?
Right, and that's the thing. I've had a lot of people email me and say, I've been hearing knocks and I've been smelling rotten eggs. So I know from what I've seen that that's demonic. You know what I'm like, whoa, okay, we have all these experts all of a sudden that, you know, it's just because
they're
knowledge
armchair
is out
experts
there.
is what it is.
That's, you know, when you watch all these TV shows, it's hard not to buy into going, oh, I know what that's about. And
put down the remote, pick up a book.
It's hard, yeah, but it's hard because you know, you think You have all these ideas that, okay, I've seen this kind of haunting and this kind of haunting, and
Right.
you know, it's a lot more than just what you see on TV. I do a lot of research.
Right.
My favorite people to research actually are Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Okay.
And that's a prime example of two people that are very religious and spiritual
Sure.
that deal with the paranormal.
Okay.
I believe that Ed Warren was one of 6 people that were actually ordained as an exorcist, and he was the only person that was not a priest
Okay.
in the country at one time. So it's really interesting how they tie that in.
So when you're doing this, do you have a role model?
I would say, yeah. I think personally, like I said, I do look up to the Warrens a lot.
Okay.
But in my methods, I definitely look up to Grant Wilson. He's one of the
Oh, sure,
founders of
sure,
TAPS.
TAPS.
The reason I like what Grant does is that he's very honest and open with what he's dealing with.
Sure.
If he doesn't know an answer to something, he'll be the first to say, you know what, I don't know. Let's
So
find out.
he is skeptical of what his own research is.
Right. He wants to find out what the answer is for the clients,
wants
and
to-
that's the number one.
Okay. He wants
It's
to drill
not-
down to what's really happening.
Right. In our paranormal world, there's a lot of big egos.
Okay.
You know, I'm sure with all these TV shows, but that's just one person that comes to mind that's grounded, that is really there to help people.
Okay. Remind people about the Warrens. Their big claim to fame, and it's been serialized now in movies, is the Annabelle story.
Annabelle doll. Yep. And the
And-
Amityville horror too.
And the Amityville
Mhm.
horror. But Annabelle is what has been considered a cursed object. Have you, in your investigations, encountered a cursed object at all?
We just had an example of one.
Yeah. There was a residential home that we investigated recently near Lake Minnetonka that actually had an old suitcase in the attic that the homeowner felt that there was something attached with. And we actually were able to remove it from the attic and kind of get it out of her home, and things have been much better ever since.
So it actually did improve the environment where she was.
Right.
Okay. And you kind of told us where that object is residing right now.
It is currently at my old home in the garage. I take care with that because if you just kind of throw an object in the trash,
Sure.
who's it going to end up with? I don't want this happening to someone else. So until I can figure out what to do with this object,
Okay.
I'm just going to keep it in a safe place that's not, it's out in my garage that's detached.
Okay.
It's not attached to my house. I'm just going to leave it there for now, and we can
So,
decide
and-
what to do.
Are you then trying to work with other people to see what can be done with this object then? Or have you not started that process yet?
I haven't. I'd like to, one name that comes to mind is Johnny Zaffis.
Right.
He's the haunted collector. He
Yep.
actually deals with haunted objects a lot, and it's, what he does is just take them to his museum
Right.
and stores them there, keeps them there. That's it.
Right. And I've seen pictures of his museum where he kind of just locks off the products, or puts them in containers or in glass boxes, just to you can still see them, but you don't want to deal with them.
Yeah.
Did he take on the Annabelle doll?
In
after?
fact, Annabelle is at the
At his-
Warren Occult Museum, and it says absolutely do not open.
Okay.
It's this Raggedy Ann looking doll. It's not anything really too spooky.
It looks innocent enough,
Right.
but it carries a big price.
Right, it says absolutely under no circumstances do not open this box.
Okay. So let's go on and talk about some of, if you will, favorite haunts or investigations, places you've been that present the most activity or the oddest activity maybe you've seen. What can you tell us?
Well, if I could share my favorite investigation that really came full circle for me was a place in central Minnesota. It
Okay.
happened back in 2014. Now, the preface was this was an old general store that had been turned into a residential home.
Okay.
There was a family living there that had 3 young children and a baby on the way. So immediately that was our red flag. Okay, we need to get this case done right away because there's children involved. It was 98 miles away. So it was just in that circle, and we went out.
And explain that real quick. You guys have a 100-mile radius
Yes.
from basically downtown Minneapolis.
Right, and that's where we just kind of have our cutoff, because it's hard to determine where you cut
Sure.
cut things off, but that's where it is. In this case, happened to be 98 miles from there. So a really great family. I actually had the homeowner stay during this investigation because we felt that he may have been part of the haunting.
Okay.
And sometimes, as we've said, people can be haunted and not places.
Right,
So
right. So it may have attached itself to him.
it could have, yeah. So he was actually present during the investigation. Now, at this point in my investigation career, I hadn't really seen much. I was pretty new. I was less than a year into it. I was in the basement of this home that was a general store. It actually had tunnels that were built for Prohibition use.
Okay.
Very interesting property. And as I think we'll show a picture later, but there was a laser grid in the basement. So there were green dots illuminating the
Okay.
entire basement. I was standing on this side of the room. I had a fellow investigator standing this side, and then the homeowner where you are.
Okay.
So as we're doing an EVP session, which is electronic voice phenomena, we're trying to talk to spirits to see if we can pick up any recordings, and that may indicate what we're dealing with in a haunting.
Sure.
So first, I listen above me, and there are footsteps clearly right above my head. And they were just 3 footsteps in the middle of the room. We had no investigators on that floor.
Okay.
Just, we were in the basement, and then 2 other people were on the second floor.
Okay.
So we thought, okay, something's going on here. And I look over at my fellow investigator and the homeowner, and in between them is a woman. She's about 5'2". She's just looking down. She has short hair. She has a white nightgown on. Just very sad looking. Her hair was kind of in her face, and she was just staring straight ahead at what they were looking at, which was, these tunnels that we were kind of discussing about Prohibition. And my blood went cold. When you see an apparition, I don't know if it's different for everyone, but I didn't believe it.
Okay.
My logical mind, I was like, and it's on the recorder, I'm saying, I swear I just saw a woman standing in between you guys, but it must have been a shadow room, my mind playing tricks on me.
And they did not see her.
They did not see her.
Okay.
Nope. The homeowner had seen an apparition. That is what I've been told, that he had seen an apparition standing over his baby's crib, which was very heartbreaking. So we thought, okay, we really need to find them some answers. So, I went on, I do an investigation report after each investigation.
Sure.
And I go through exactly what happened. And as I was doing it, I couldn't shake what I saw. I kept seeing her. She would pop up when I was just about to go to sleep, and so I decided to describe her in detail. I actually drew a picture of her, and last minute we decided to present that to the homeowner.
Okay.
And during the reveal, which is one of the last stages of our case methodology, he immediately was covered in goosebumps, and he couldn't believe it because that was the exact woman he had seen standing over his baby's crib.
Wow.
She had the white nightgown on. She was in her early 20s.
So, and you gave him true validation of what he was seeing.
Right? And that was an unbelievable experience for me. And it didn't stop there. We had our spiritual advisor come in and do the clearing of the home afterward. She had no knowledge of the property or our investigation. And she immediately picked up on a younger female presence that was there that unfortunately at one time had lost her baby and was very mad and upset about it, and she just couldn't move on from this property because she was so upset that her baby was gone. And to hear that, I mean, just to tie it all in,
it just gives you goosebumps.
right? It was really difficult, and I really hope we brought her peace.
Could there be any validation that maybe because she lost a child, she took her own life?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know as a mother, just the emotions you feel are powerful, and more powerful than anything you can imagine sometimes. And that love is harder to penetrate than anything I know of.
Sure.
The mother-child love.
Oh,
so.
definitely. Most definitely. And what about you, Jenny? What kind of things have you experienced in the investigations you've taken part? Now, I understand you're a very new member, but you've been on a few investigations already. So what can you tell us about what you've experienced so far?
Definitely the Palmer House had the most activity, I would say. in addition to kind of the apparition that I saw on the investigation, there were a couple of other instances where there were some noises. My boyfriend and I, it was like a weekend trip there. Okay. So we were sleeping in the room that we were staying in. And, you know, it always seems to happen just right before you fall asleep. Something has to happen. It sounded like somebody either kicked or banged on our door. Just, super loud sound. And thankfully I had my recorder going, so I was able to capture that. But the thing about the Palmer House is it's a very old hotel, and you can hear the floors creak. You can hear sounds very easily. And the floorboards weren't creaking out in the hallway. There was nothing. It was just that loud bang and then nothing else. And
just to clarify, you and your boyfriend both heard the sound.
We did, yep.
Because, you know, oftentimes as we're falling asleep, our mind can play tricks on us. We think we hear. But for both of you, it obviously wasn't that type of experience.
No.
It was an actual physical or sound that you heard.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, on the recorder, it even sounds like it's coming from in the room. It's so loud.
Okay.
But I could tell from the sound that it was coming from out in the hallway. Like something out in the hallway made that sound on our door.
And now we have an EVP from you folks from the Palmer House. Can you explain what that was, or go into depth of what the EVP is, and we'll play that as we get through the story here too.
I think this one is Come Back. Back.
Right.
And we've been to the Palmer House so many times. We were actually the first group to investigate the Palmer House.
Okay.
We're very proud of that because we did that back in 2006.
Okay, and it's been investigated many times by
Right.
many people from the television side as well. So.
Right. Yeah, and we're actually going back there in November.
Oh,
Brady and myself are helping to lead an investigation.
Okay.
So that should be a really great event too, if anybody's interested in partaking.
So you'll take non-members with you to be part of that then?
Yes. Yep.
Sounds
There are
fun.
rules though. The Palmer House Hotel does have rules that you cannot provoke any spirits.
Okay.
There's, also other rules. There's no alcohol involved. It's just, they're
So-
very respectful of the spirits there.
So
which
you
is,
have to be, respectful
right.
and basically follow the rules, otherwise you're out of there.
Right. Yep. Respect or get out. So.
That's very nice, yeah.
Yeah, and that's,
Well, they
we
don't want
like
anybody to
that.
provoke them, and then they have to deal with it after everybody
Exactly.
leaves.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the thing.
exactly.
So we love the Palmer House because they are so respectful of the spirits that are there.
And so now the comeback EVP, was the context to that?
I'm trying to think of what the context was, but we've had so many different EVPs. We had a girl there that started singing "Ring Around the Rosie."
Okay.
I mean, just
out of the blue.
yeah, just out of the blue. And a lot of times, I think we're going to show a picture too that's associated with the Palmer as a trigger object of crayons in a coloring book, because there are said to be children's spirits
Okay.
at the Palmer.
Okay.
So that has happened. And
So the history of the Palmer House, has that always been a hotel, or was it an orphanage at some point?
nope, it was a hotel. It actually burned early on, and then it was
Okay.
rebuilt. The reason that the Palmer House is so famous in Minnesota is that Sinclair Lewis used to work there as a night bell clerk.
Certainly.
And his novel Main Street is said to be based on Sauk Center and
Oh,
part of the Palmer House Hotel, which is really interesting.
very cool.
So the fundraiser and ghost hunt that we're doing in November is actually to help raise money to paint a mural of Sinclair Lewis on the hotel.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
So it's really great.
Okay. And yeah, we also have a picture of that trigger object, so we'll put that in as well and just kind of give people an idea. The trigger object, though, what does it do? I mean, is it there to help invoke the child spirit that is there?
Yeah.
Get them to interact with you?
Right.
Okay.
Like we used to have a thing called Boo Bear, and it was a teddy bear that would light up, and it's just to make the entity feel comfortable enough, something to make them feel at ease, to go, okay, you can talk to us. It's okay. We're not here to
So,
harm
yeah,
you.
We're here to help or to talk, and when here we brought you a toy.
Yeah.
Right. And then
Exactly.
on the other end of that, I mean, we have other places we go, like the soap factory,
Okay.
that have a really dark history. And for trigger objects with that, I mean, it's hard to decide what you bring to the soap factory because it's such an amazing history. It's a place on St. Anthony, Maine.
Okay.
For those not familiar with it, we have collected some of our most incredible EVPs from this location.
Right, and we have a couple of those. The one is telling you to get out.
One floor, another floor. What I didn't like was the somebody guys I'll get that brand out.
Right.
What can you say about that particular spirit or that voice? Is it, you believe it to be an evil entity, I believe?
Absolutely. Yep. This entity, we believe, is still there and is very powerful, and is so powerful that we have trouble helping the other spirit that may be stuck there move on.
Right, and we also have the EVP of the young woman crying. Give me a little background on that, on what you believe has been believed to be that woman.
Well, we believe that she was probably a homeless person or a transient of some sort that at the time, back in the soap factory's heyday, it was a working factory and there were a lot of people that would kind of sneak in and out of there. Well, there was a woman that was unfortunately, we believe, mistreated and murdered. And the EVP we caught, it's hard to listen to just because there's so much pain in it. The EVP was taken during our initial 10 minutes of silence. When we do an investigation session, we like to have 5 to 10 minutes of silence to get a baseline reading of what kind of sounds we're hearing around us. So that we know what we're dealing with. If we hear a pipe banging or something, we can go, okay, that I know what that is, it's mechanical. But this, no one was talking. This was captured down by the coal room in the soap factory. And we believe that it is a woman pleading for her life.
Wow, okay.
Now, when we had, and during this same investigation, we had an investigator get rushed by a very aggressive male entity.
Wow.
And this get out EVP was taken shortly after she had that experience.
Okay.
We said, are you trying to scare her?
And that's when you hear the get out. Now, were these, they weren't audible to you, but just on the EVP?
Right.
And so, yeah, well, we'll definitely want to check into those. What other kind of experiences have you had out doing, the investigations? Weird, or has there been a place that you would be hesitant to go back to?
I know there's actually 2 investigators that will never return to the soap factory because it was such negative energy, and they were, and this is what we do. This is our passion, is we love to investigate, and we're, a lot of people wonder, how do you do that? How do you sit in the dark and not be scared? And but you know what? We're looking for it. That's the other thing too. It's like we're actually sitting here going, okay, what's going on here? I want to know.
Sure.
You're not being scared.
Right.
It's not some spirit all of a sudden coming up to you like, oh, and it's, you're actually kind of looking for.
Right. You want this to happen.
Right. And we've had so many different experiences with so many different homeowners and businesses.
Do you have anybody on your team that's a sensitive, that can sense being around a spirit?
Yes. Yeah. And we use that on a reserve basis.
Okay.
Because
so
we are
they're
more
not out there all the time, but
right, we're more scientific based, but it's a good resource for us. We do have a spiritual advisory team that Brady leads, and so that's specifically just for spiritual clearings and just to kind of tap into that side when we need to.
Okay.
We can't use it as evidence, but it helps us validate evidence that we may collect.
Sure, they can come in and give you a little more information, perhaps. Okay. So what are the variety of places? I mean, you do a lot of residential, but you mentioned you went to Waverly Hills Sanitarium.
Right, yeah.
That is historically one of the most haunted places in America.
Absolutely, and we hope to go back in May of this coming year. We went in 2014. 4 of us went down to Kentucky. We drove down there. It's in Louisville, Kentucky. And we actually collaborated with some other teams.
Okay.
You can rent the entire sanatorium out for the night.
Okay.
So it's a minimum of 10 people, but you have the sanatorium to yourself from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m.
Wow. Okay.
There's no electricity because it's such a crazy huge place, and they're renovating some small parts of it, but
Right.
I can't wait to go back.
In your investigation or of going through Waverly Hills, what did you experience anything that, you know, kind of shook you or was different than you'd seen elsewhere?
Yeah, we have kind of a funny story that there's been known to be a doppelganger ghost
Okay.
at Waverly Hills. And doppelganger means that it is a spiritual entity that will mimic someone else and
Okay.
try to look exactly like another person. And that's a way of scaring people, which for obvious reasons. So we were on the 4th floor up by where there was a rumored nurse that had hung herself.
Okay.
We were up there and doing an EVP session. And then the next team went on that floor. We were back on the 1st floor. In that next round, they had captured a photo, an apparition of a guy that somehow looked exactly like Ron Gardenhire, but who also happened to resemble Steve, one of our team members.
Okay.
And this picture is of a very large man who is bald, a very built man. And coincidentally, during our walkthrough, one of our investigators had seen a shadow man that matched that description as well as we were walking, and that was noted in our initial notes.
Oh.
So this man had been seen twice and happened to look exactly like one of our team members. So or Ron Gardenhire, but.
Wow. That's pretty wild. I really appreciate you guys coming in today. We've had some great stories, got some great information. Real quick, if anybody's interested in joining your group, tell them how to do it.
Well, if you'd like to join our group, we do open membership once a year. We typically do that beginning of the year. We do ask that you have a passion for the paranormal. We do face-to-face interviews. So, I mean, you've been through the process recently. We do a face-to-face interview. We do background checks because we are going into private homes. So
Okay.
just be assured that, we make sure everybody that's on our team is very safe and very
Okay.
ethical. So if you're interested in joining, you can go to www.tcpsmn.org and you can click on more information there, or you can email us at help@tcpsmn.org and we'd be happy to speak with you about joining.
That is great. Again, thank you, Angela, Jenny. It's been a great conversation. There's been some reported activity here in our studios. We'd like to have you guys come out and maybe take a look around and see what we can do.
That'd be
awesome.
fantastic. We
That
would
be
love
awesome.
that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. This has been Charlie Bros for Aimless TV, and we'll see you next time.
Ha 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 ha!